I'm talking with Liz Moore. Liz is Director of Research, Insights and Analytics at Telstra. And we're really talking today about the changing face of analytics. Now, Liz, your job is all analytics, but really you're a marketing person. Could you tell us a little bit about a typical day in your life?
Typical day in my life is back-to-back half-hour meetings, like most people working in large matrix organisations. Most of my day is spent, I would say, 2/3 of my day is spent actually working with the business, meeting with business people from right across. That could be meeting with people who are running a channel, people who are running projects. It could be meeting with network people, running our networks, and really actually understanding what it is that their business needs and requirements are and how we turn those into research and analytic projects that can be solved, or actually assisting them to understand the outputs of the work that we've done. The rest of the time is dealing with people, working with people. A lot of time with vendors, working with, well, I should be calling them partners rather than vendors, looking at what's new on the horizon, what other software, hardware, techniques that are out there that we could be incorporating into the way we run our analytics. So
yes, one of the things I've been talking about in some of my research work is that analytics is something that's moved out of the back room and is now a front office activity where really it's the front office and the boardroom who are interested in analytics these days, and it's not the boffins in the back room anymore. Yeah. And it was interesting when we were talking just before this session, and I asked about the top 4 things that you saw as important. The number 1 thing you mentioned was people. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the people side of your job?
Yeah, look, I think there seems to be a theme coming through. Malcolm Turnbull mentioned it, and Elizabeth from HP just mentioned it as well, was asked a question about it, is the changing nature of the type of people that we that work in the analytics environment. If I sort of think about, I've been working in analytics for probably the past 20 years. And when I started, you would come to work with your cassette Walkman and put it on, and you'd sit at the terminal that you'd booked and put your headphones on, and you'd cut code, and you'd pray to hell like that nobody would bother you so you could get through your code. It may be being able to write and understand the code in whatever software is a necessary but insufficient condition for an analyst, for a modern analyst. And the skills that we're really developing in the team that I'm leading is really around the consulting skills and the ability to understand those business questions. So the ability to be able to partner with a business person to scope out what is the business problem, translate that into an analytics problem, understand where the data's coming from, how to bring that data together is really important. And then at the other end, it's at those either ends that consulting skill is so important. That ability to be able to see the project through to the end, and the end isn't until there's a campaign in market or the process has been re-engineered, and the measurement of the success of that has been embedded into the way we do business is when the project's finished. So if I've built the model and the code runs is not enough. The ability to be able to drive it through to the end and ensure that when you're designing that you've got a pathway to execution and you know how you're going to drive to a customer service improvement or a revenue outcome is really, really important for today's modern analysts. You know, we're now calling them data scientists, so there's been a rebrand to some extent, but the mathematics is important, but it's not the only thing that someone in an analytics role needs to be able to do.
Yes, and I have to say, as an industry analyst, I couldn't help but asking you the big data question, because all of us in the analyst world are commenting on this question of big data. But it was interesting that when we were talking earlier, you were saying that it's not so much just that, but it's the intersection between big data and small data. It's that intersection point that's the interesting bit.
Yeah, look, we're finding in a lot of the work that we're doing that the big data is fascinating and interesting, and providing us with insight we just could only dream about 10 years ago. So in some ways, I like to think of the technology, the hardware and the software has now caught up with the imagination of many of the analysts and what we can do. You know, we don't have to sample. That's exciting. But many of the big data streams don't tell us a lot actually about the customer. And in this day and age, putting the customer at the centre of your business, whether it's government or a commercial business, is really, really important. And a lot of that customer information is still stored in nicely behaved rows and columns. And it's bringing those nicely behaved rows and columns small data together with the big data, where you're unlocking a lot of the value and getting a lot of the insight. So the information that telecommunications companies have around someone's propensity to churn is stored in our small data environment. A lot of how they're experiencing the network is stored in the big data environment. And it's bringing those two pieces together that's really important. And I think we often miss that in many of the discussions that I've heard. We sort of all talk about, wow, big data. Big data is really important, but a lot of the value that you're going to unlock is being able to bring those two environments together and being able to bring the intersection of many different types of data sources together to unlock that insight for value or public policy or customer service is my experience.
Now, also, I suppose, as I tend to get excited these days about annual reports and strategic plans, it's a sad life, really. But one of the things that keeps on popping up over and over is organisations continually talking about themselves becoming more agile, more innovative, and it's this question of agility. But I think you were saying that one of the really key issues is building agile infrastructure to drive agile thinking.
Look, I think many people will have recognised as you move into the era of big data, we're driving many aspects of what we're doing, we're driving a more experimental approach. So we want to try it, see if we can make money out of it, see if we can drive a customer service experience out of it, see if it supports public policy making. And that ability to try something quickly, does it work? Yes. Keep driving money out of it. Is often, I'll use an analytics term, orthogonal to the way our IT departments have traditionally embedded infrastructure. We want an enterprise-wide solution. We want to spend 18 months doing it. And as an analytics practitioner, there's a cool bit of kit that's coming out of somewhere in San Jose that I've got no idea about yet. There's two guys who've just finished their PhDs from Caltech, moved to San Jose, doing something really cool. I want to trial it, get it in, see how it fits into the ecosystem and move on. And it's almost like this continuous stream of proof of concepts or an experimental approach to IT. And I think that there are ways where we're going to need to have to start thinking about how we incorporate that as the exponential growth in these things continue. So we're trialling some of those sorts of approaches now, and partnering closely with our friends in IT to really look at how we can drive different ways of thinking around some of this sort of stuff, but always putting number one in everything we do around data security and the privacy of our customers' very important data. Can't compromise that in our drive to agility, and that's a non-negotiable. It's incredibly important to all of us personally and to the organisation as a whole.
So what sort of problems do people coming up, and have you seen a broadening of the sort of questions that people ask you to do analytics on these days, or is it the same old, same old?
Look, I think there's a push and a pull factor here, and my team has we live in the marketing department, so we're part of the CMO, Chief Marketing Office. And the bulk, I would say sort of about 60 to 70% of our work is around solving marketing issues. And that could be identifying customers who have specific customer service issues. It could be around the traditional cross-sell and churn type modelling continues. Improving that through access to big data streams is clearly a priority. But the real groundswell that I'm seeing, and also other telecommunications carriers around the world who I met with in January were also seeing, is around using analytics to drive a better customer experience within the organisation, with a view to driving improved advocacy through NPS. NPS was the discussion that most of the carriers were having. But also really putting customer experience at the heart of things like, so we're looking at things like process re-engineering, understanding customer experience that will drive into process re-engineering within the organisation to drive a better outcome, and what analytics do we need to undertake to do that. So we've got a program of work around that. We're working really closely with our network, with our people in networks to help them in sort of optimising capital allocation and those sorts of things. We're working in areas around our sort of front of house and technicians around optimising truck rolls, so the trucks that go out. And so how do you optimise that? And bringing, yes, there's analytics, but bringing more of a big data flavour to that and driving that. Most of these problems and questions we're being asked, we're being asked to look at the analytics from a customer in perspective rather than an organisation out. So it's quite a different approach to the way you look at the analytics and how you drive that in. So you're looking at how do you optimise the customer experience. The outcomes of that are often shareholder related in that you're taking cost out of. Driving a better customer experience results in a cost reduction. But you're really looking at the problem from a customer in perspective.
Oh, great. Can I get a time check? How are we going? 2 minutes, yay. Okay. Any questions from the floor here? It's great to look at practical practitioner issues. What about this question? You're talking about the customer experience. And how is the view from a corporate, in a sense, you're looking at big corporate, lots of products and that sort of thing, but you're really trying to drill down to individual customer experiences, aren't you? That's the big challenge in analytics.
So the headline rate is David Thodey, our CEO, has made it really clear that customer centricity and customer service is the number one goal of Telstra. And then that flows all the way through down to how do you make that phone call to the call centre better? How do you improve that individual web chat? So really some of the analytics is really around trying to improve customer service on an individual one by one basis, and using the analytics to understand that and optimise that, and then bringing it up to holistic processes, given that when you're dealing with a mass market, you're looking at lots of customers going through a similar sort of process. So it's really about understanding the individual, but also being able to chunk that up to groups of customers where you can actually make a difference as well. So we're looking at individuals up and down. And a lot of that is really about bringing the research, some of the market research we do, together with the analytics. So it's really fusing data sets that are small in some instances and big in others, and market research data sets which tend to be really small data sets. That give us a richness of that way customers felt when they go through those particular processes. So it's fusing those pieces of data together to understand it from a customer perspective, and then look at how we can optimise and improve.
Okay, so just in closing, you're a marketing person doing analytics in a technical organisation. How does it work? How do you get that to work?
How do I get that to work? Well, I've worked in marketing, marketing analytics for probably the past almost 20 years. I'm the geek of marketing. I very much, and I've been told I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't brand myself that way. Marketing's role is really about being a customer advocate within an organisation. And as organisations in service industries across the world really look at marketing, assisting that organisation driving into customer centricity, marketing becomes important. And so having my function within marketing does make sense in some ways, because we are being that voice of the customer through the data trail that our customers leave. And I think that's, for me, how it works. Different analytics teams are structured differently in telecommunications. Some live in IT, some live in finance. there is a growing trend that I saw when I was at a meeting one of our sponsors hosted in Nice. Damn, that was tough to take. In January, though, with about a dozen other heads of analytics, and there was a growing trend for those heads of analytics to be in marketing because of this drive to customer centricity.
Okay. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. We could go on like this forever, but time is finished. So I'm Kevin Noonan, Research Director at Ovum, and I'd like to thank Liz Moore from Telstra. Please join me in thanking her.